words matter? A rose. At the mere mention of that word, an image formed in your mind, didn't it? Was it a delicate red flower with interwoven sweet-smelling petals? Or perhaps you picture the less common Cassie rose. Its yellow center surrounding white petals is more of a daisy. It looks more like a daisy than a rose. But whatever the image, I'm sure it was not a metallic, harsh object, was it? So, do words matter? In Shakespeare's classic play, Juliet asked her beloved Romeo, "What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet." Changing Romeo's name from Montague with Smith would not have changed his character, any more than changing the name of a rose to a thorny flower would keep it from smelling sweet, would it? So do words matter? Let's take another word, day. Did you think of a 24-hour period of time? Most people do. However, day has several other meanings. I was surprised myself. For example, I'm going to read to you a couple of sentences. In the first sentence, it means daylight. The owl sleeps by day and feeds by night. They can also refer to a period of time. For example, I had a long day at the office. They can refer to an era. In my day, my space meant my side of the room. Not anymore, does it? There are several other meanings to the word day. But scientifically speaking, a day represents the time a planet takes to revolve on its axis one time. On Earth, that means 24 hours, almost. Jupiter, our largest neighboring planet, it's gigantic, it really is. It's surprisingly 10 hours. One day is just 10 hours on Jupiter. Can you imagine that? When it comes to a day, you can say that size really doesn't matter. Venus wins the longest day with a whooping, ready? 6,000 hours. You could say that maybe God created Venus for those of us who wish there was more hours in a day. Want a trip? Given all these meanings, content is the only way to know what day actually means. If day always meant 24 hours, then the sentence, "The owl sleeps by day and feeds by night," would suggest that the owl sleeps for 24 hours and then eats for another 24 hours without stopping, but it doesn't, does it? I had a long day at the office would imply that someone has the power to extend the segment of time. That's absurd. Can we agree? The definition of day depends on the content of the sentence, right? Let me read to you another sentence. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. There was evening and there was morning, the first day. If you don't know, that's in Genesis. How does the content define the verse or the word in this verse? Well, that is the right question and a topic of much debate. If we allow the content to define day in that sentence, some say it can mean much, much longer than a 24-hour period of time. But for this talk, I'm going to assume that you believe that God is the creator. So what's the problem? Don't all Christians believe that God created the universe in 6 literal days? Unfortunately, no. In the center of the debate lies the 3-letter word day, yom in Hebrew. Why bother debating at all? When it comes to creation studies, how did God, or in fact, did God, matter more than how long did God? Some say yes. Personally, I say the two cannot be separated. Let me explain. Believing in God was never a problem for me. As a child, I grew up in the Catholic Church. I simply accepted that God was the creator. However, I never knew the reason why I believed he was the creator. Faith is important, of course, but Peter gave us wise counsel when he said, in 1 Peter 3:15, always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give a reason for the hope that you have. I want to read that one more time. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give a reason for the hope that you have. We're not expected to just believe. Faith is good, but we are expected to know why we believe what we believe. I was never taught the reason why I believed. I just believed. What's so bad about that? A lot, especially in today's world. The safe bubble of my childhood came crashing down the day Fidel Castro stepped into history. My family fled his tyranny to America. No one prepared us for the culture shock. One short flight changed our world forever. At 7 years old, I found myself in a world I didn't know. I didn't have a friend. This new world was scary. There were tall buildings and noises I never heard before. My dad's strong, comforting arms weren't there at night. He worked the night shift. But, as most children, I adapted quickly. Unfortunately, my mom, it was much harder for her. She went from homemaker, mom, to factory worker, and she just could not adjust. To receive comfort, she went to the priest of St. Joseph. She couldn't understand him. Let's just say we never went to church again. My biblical education remained at a child's level. So what about that hope? I didn't know what that was. My hope and my belief in God was a very elusive idea. So when my 6th grade science teacher gave a scientific explanation for the beginning of time, well, guess what? I didn't have a reason not to believe him. Besides, he had pictures. Did you ever see the one about the monkey gradually turning into a man? It was really convincing, let me tell you. I didn't have a reason not to believe him or that picture. That's when I became a Christian evolutionist. You see, I still believed in God, but I no longer believed the Bible. How could I? The first sentence in the Bible told me God created, and science said he didn't. I could not be both right. I tried to make both views fit into one. It was actually really easy to do, because you see, the Bible to me, it was just a bunch of stories, fables. Did you hear the one about the guy who got swallowed up by a giant whale? How about the one of a garden? I heard there was a naked girl who ate an apple and died. Well, at least the snake that gave her the fatal apple wasn't as scary as that witch in Snow White. I thought Snow White was a much better story. There was that prince that saved her. I didn't know about the prince of all princes. In fact, I didn't know a lot about the Bible. It wasn't until I became a mom and my 5-year-old asked me questions about God and the world, and I had no answers. That's when I began to seek the truth for both of our sakes.